Amanda's words hit me like a slap across the face as she stood in my son's kitchen, her wedding dress hanging pristine behind her. "The best gift you could give us," she said sweetly, "is to disappear from our lives." That fake smile, flawless yet hollow, was something I'd grown to despise. Michael silently nodded, not even sparing me a glance. Let me rewind for a moment and set the stage. 3 years ago, I sold my cherished Victorian home, the one my late husband Robert and I had poured our hearts into restoring, just to help Michael and Amanda start their lives together. I handed over $87,000, every cent of my savings, to give them the down payment for this very house. They'd promised I'd always be welcome, that I'd always be part of the family. Now, on the eve of their extravagant wedding, mostly funded by me, Amanda had decided I was an inconvenience. "You heard her," Michael finally spoke, his voice cold. "This is our special weekend. You're ruining it with your negativity." Negativity? I'd spent hours arranging flowers, running errands, and soothing Amanda's endless complaints, only to be branded the problem because I questioned whether swan-shaped ice sculptures were really necessary. "Where exactly am I supposed to go?" I asked evenly. Amanda shrugged. "A hotel? Stay with your sisters? Honestly, Dorothy, I don't care. As long as you're not here tomorrow." "This is Michael's home too," I reminded her. "Actually," Michael cut in, "Amanda's the one handling everything now. Bills, renovations, you just helped us once." Once. That's all $87,000 meant to them. A single act of generosity they now felt entitled to forget. I stood in that kitchen, staring at the cabinets I'd helped choose and the counters I'd paid for, feeling something shift inside me. Not break, just shift, like a gear clicking into place. "You're right," I said softly. "I'll go." Amanda seemed thrown off by my calmness. No begging, no tears, none of the drama she probably expected. "I'll be out in an hour," I added. Michael looked relieved. "That's probably best, Mom. We can talk after the honeymoon." As if this betrayal was a minor family spat. Upstairs, I packed in silence in the guest room. Always the guest room, never my room, because guests aren't meant to stay. Downstairs, I heard them casually discussing what to do with the space. Amanda wanted a yoga studio. Michael thought an office. Not an ounce of guilt between them. I paused at Robert's photo on the nightstand. 43 years of marriage, and not once had he made me feel like an outsider in my own home. "Don't worry, sweetheart," I whispered. "I'm not going down without a fight. But first, I had phone calls to make. Sitting in my car outside their house. No, scratch that. Outside the house my money had bought. I pulled out my phone and dialed my lawyer's emergency number. Margaret Chen had been handling my affairs since Robert's death, and she'd warned me about this exact scenario. "Dorothy, it's Saturday evening. Is everything all right? Margaret, I need you to pull the documentation on the house purchase. All of it." A pause. "Has something happened with Michael and Amanda?" I told her everything. Amanda's ultimatum, Michael's betrayal, the casual way they dismissed my contribution as some money once. Margaret stayed quiet, though I could hear the steady click of her keyboard in the background. "Dorothy," she said finally, her voice careful, "I've been concerned about this for a while, how they've been treating your investment like a gift instead of what it truly is." My stomach tightened. "What do you mean, what it truly is?" There was a pause, longer this time. "You don't remember signing those additional papers? The ones I pushed for when you started voicing concerns about Amanda's spending habits?" My pulse quickened. "Margaret, please tell me you did something to protect me." "Oh, honey," she said gently, "that $87,000 wasn't a gift. On paper, it's a loan, and your name is on the deed as a co-owner. Amanda never signed the acknowledgement forms I sent over. Legally, you own 35% of that house." I nearly dropped the phone. "You're serious?" "Dead serious. Amanda forgot to sign multiple times, and you were too focused on keeping peace to push her. But the mortgage lists you as co-borrower, and the deed clearly reflects your share. It's airtight. Through the kitchen window, I spotted Amanda laughing on a video call, twirling her veil, likely showing off to her mother, oblivious to the conversation that was about to upend her life. Margaret, hypothetically, what if I wanted to sell my share? As a co-owner, you'd have the right to force a sale. They'd get the first opportunity to buy you out at market value. If they can't afford it, the house would be listed and the proceeds divided according to your ownership percentage. I watched Michael pop a bottle of champagne, his face smug with relief now that mother would no longer be a burden. He had no idea. Margaret, draft a notice of intent to sell. I want it delivered Monday morning. Dorothy, are you sure? Once this begins. I've never been sure of anything. I cut her off. They want me out? Fine. I'm taking my 35% with me. After hanging up, I sat in the growing twilight, staring at the warm lights glowing in my house, watching my son and his fiancée toast their future, unaware that their dream home was about to become a nightmare. But I wasn't done. Sunset Gardens Country Club, this is Jessica. A cheerful voice answered. Hi, Jessica. This is Dorothy Mitchell. I need to speak with your catering manager regarding tomorrow's wedding reception. Oh, Mrs. Mitchell, the wedding's tomorrow, right? How exciting. How can I help? I'm afraid there's been a change of plans. I need to cancel the reception. A shocked pause. Cancel? But ma'am, it's less than 24 hours away. The food's prepped, the staff scheduled. I understand, and I'm prepared to pay the cancellation fees. But I'm the one who signed the contract and paid the deposit. The decision is mine. I could hear the shuffle of papers. Yes, it's in your name with your card. But shouldn't you discuss this with the bride and groom first? No need. I'm simply honoring their wishes, I said, my tone cool. Another pause. With respect, this seems like something the couple should be involved in. I glanced back through the window at Amanda, who was adjusting her veil in front of a mirror for the 100th time. The happy couple made it very clear they don't want me involved in their lives. I'm giving them exactly what they asked for. Cancel everything. 20 minutes later, I was checked into a Hampton Inn across town, indulging in overpriced room service, savoring something I hadn't felt in years, the thrill of reclaiming control. My phone lit up at 11:47 p.m. What did you do? Amanda's voice shrieked so loudly I had to pull the phone from my ear. I honored your request, I said evenly, lowering the TV volume in my hotel room. You wanted me to disappear, I said coolly. So I disappeared. The country club called, Amanda's voice cracked. They said you canceled our reception. Our wedding reception. You can't just cancel our entire wedding because you're upset about the guest room. I didn't cancel your wedding, I said softly. You're still free to get married. I only canceled the reception I was paying for, the one that cost me $14,000. Silence. Dead silence. I'd never mentioned the numbers before, always brushing off their questions about money. I'd wanted to let them feel spoiled and cared for, without burdening them with the sacrifices behind their fairy tale dreams. 14,000? Amanda's voice was barely a whisper. Yes, I said. The reception, the flowers, the photographer, the band. Did you think all of that just appeared out of thin air because you wanted a storybook wedding? But we can't just tell 200 people there's no reception, Michael stammered. You're both resourceful adults. I'm confident you'll find a solution. I hear McDonald's does catering now. Amanda's crying turned into messy sobs, the kind that might have broken my heart months ago. Now, they just sounded like yet another tantrum. How could you do this to us? We trusted you, she wailed. Trusted me? I repeated calmly. You literally told me to disappear from your family. I'm honoring your wishes. I didn't mean forever, Amanda cried. I just meant for the weekend. Oh, I see, I said dryly. So when you said permanently, I was supposed to guess you meant temporarily. My mistake. Michael's voice softened. Mom, please, let's be reasonable. Come back to the house. We'll talk this out like adults. The house where I'm not welcome? Where my existence ruins everything? I laughed softly. I don't think so. Where are you even staying? Amanda demanded. That's not your concern anymore, is it? I said. You made it quite clear my housing situation isn't your problem. I could hear frantic whispering on the other end, likely them scrambling to undo the disaster they brought on themselves. Can't you at least call the country club back? Michael pleaded. Explain this was a misunderstanding? It wasn't, I said firmly. It was a conscious business decision made by the person paying the bills. But what about our guests? Michael's voice was desperate. Amanda's family flew in from California. They can still witness your vows, I replied evenly. They just won't be treated to a free gourmet dinner afterward. Amanda grabbed the phone again, voice sharp and panicked. You're being vindictive and cruel. No, sweetheart, I said calmly. Vindictive and cruel was telling the woman funding your dream wedding to disappear. I'm just being financially responsible. This will ruin everything. Everyone will think we're broke. Well, I let the silence stretch, picturing them squirming. Now that you mention it, without my financial support, you are going to be broke very soon. What do you mean? Michael's voice was tight with fear. I mean, have you looked at your budget lately? Do you know how your monthly expenses compare to your income? More hurried whispering, because I've been quietly supplementing your lifestyle this whole time. The grocery money I slip Amanda during shopping trips. The utility bills I pay when you're short. The car repairs, the insurance premiums, the little emergencies I've been covering. Those were gifts, Amanda whispered. Were they? I said. Because from my perspective, they look more like an allowance. And allowances can be discontinued. The silence was so long I thought they'd hung up. Finally, Michael spoke. What do you want, Mom? Now that was interesting. An hour ago, they couldn't wait to get rid of me. Now, they wanted to negotiate. I want exactly what you offered me, I said calmly. To disappear from your family, permanently. And I'll be taking my money with me when I go. By Sunday morning, my phone had lit up with 37 missed calls and 41 unread texts. I ignored them all, savoring a quiet breakfast from room service and flipping through the Sunday paper like nothing was wrong. The wedding was scheduled for 2 p.m. At 9 o'clock, a sharp knock rattled my hotel room door. Through the peephole, I saw Michael, shirt wrinkled, tuxedo half on, looking like he hadn't slept at all. Mom, please, we need to talk, he said when I opened the door. I didn't invite him in. Shouldn't you be getting ready for your big day? That's what I need to talk to you about. His eyes were bloodshot, voice desperate. Amanda's having a breakdown. She locked herself in the bathroom and won't come out. Her mom's threatening to fly back to California. The entire wedding is falling apart. I'm sorry to hear that, I said coolly. I hope you manage to work it out. Work it out? Mom, you've destroyed our wedding. No, son, I simply removed my financial support. There's a difference. He barged past me into the room. I let him. Sometimes, letting someone talk is the best way to show them exactly who they've become. This is insane, he ranted. Over what? A misunderstanding about sleeping arrangements? Sit down, Michael. Something in my voice made him obey. I stayed standing, towering over my 42-year-old son, watching him squirm as reality began to settle in. This isn't about a guest room, I said coldly. This is about respect, about gratitude, about treating the person who built your life as if she matters. He frowned. We've always treated you well. Have you? I countered. When's the last time you asked how I was doing? Invited me over because you wanted my company, not because you needed my wallet? When's the last time you called to talk or remembered my birthday without Facebook prompting you? His mouth opened, then closed. Silence filled the room. Go ahead, I'll wait, I said softly. The silence grew heavier. Michael, when's the last time you treated me like your mother instead of your personal bank account? That's not fair, isn't it? I cut him off. In the past year, how much money have I given you and Amanda? I don't know. A few thousand? For emergencies? $37,000, I said, watching his face pale. $37,000 for your emergencies. Add that to the $87,000 I handed over for your dream house. That's $124,000, more than most people make in 2 years. He buried his face in his hands. We were always going to pay you back. Were you? I asked sharply. Because Amanda's been test driving cars. You've been browsing European vacation packages. Yet neither of you has ever mentioned repaying me. Not once. Michael's shoulders slumped. What do you want from me, Mom? I want you to understand I'm not your ATM. I want you to realize kindness and generosity aren't bottomless wells. And I want you to finally see that if you treat someone badly long enough, one day they'll stop caring about your comfort. So this is punishment? His voice was bitter. You're ruining our wedding day to punish us. That single comment, that my self-respect was punishment, confirmed everything I'd been feeling. No, Michael, I said firmly. I'm protecting myself. I'm breaking the cycle of financial abuse. Financial abuse? That's ridiculous. Is it? I leaned forward. You've made me believe my only worth is in how much I can give you. You've conditioned me to expect scraps of affection in exchange for massive financial support. You've guilted me for having needs while taking everything I offer for granted. I sat down across from him, locking eyes so he couldn't look away. Yesterday, Amanda told me the best gift I could give your family was to disappear forever. And you agreed with her? After everything I've done, all the sacrifices I've made, you agreed I should vanish. She didn't mean it. Yes, she did. And so did you. And you know what? I said evenly. You're going to get exactly what you asked for. Michael's head snapped up. What does that mean? I smiled, and it wasn't a kind smile. It means your free ride is over. You'll need to fund your own lifestyle now. It means you'd better hope Amanda's parents are feeling generous. And it means you should probably start apartment hunting, because things are about to get very complicated with that house. He blinked in confusion. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the paperwork you never bothered to read before your father and I handed you that $87,000. I said calmly. The documents that made me a co-owner of your dream home. The color drained from his face. That's right, sweetheart, I continued. I own 35% of your precious house, and I'm about to put it on the market. Michael stared at me like I'd just started speaking another language. You can't own part of our house. We bought it. We live there. With my down payment, I reminded him. Did you think $87,000 just evaporated? But you said it was a gift. You said you wanted to help us get started. I scrolled through my phone and held up Margaret's late-night email. Funny, my lawyer seems to remember it differently. Would you like me to read you the section that proves I'm a co-owner? This is impossible, he muttered. Amanda would have had to sign something. She was supposed to, I said. She just never got around to it. Margaret kept all the paperwork on file anyway. And now here we are. Michael's hands trembled. Anger, fear, maybe both. You planned this. You've been planning this entire thing. Oh, sweetheart, I said with a dry laugh. If I'd been plotting this, don't you think I'd have stopped funding your wedding months ago? Instead, I spent $14,000 for a celebration thrown by people who told me to disappear. If I'd been scheming, that reception would have been canceled before you sent the invites. The realization hit him, and he sagged in his chair. So, what happens now? Now? I leaned forward. Now, you choose. Either you buy out my 35% share at market value, or we list the house and split the profit. We can't afford that, he whispered. The house is worth $300,000. Your share is over $100,000. I know, I said simply. I'm good with numbers. That's why I have money. And why you're always broke. His head jerked up. We're not broke. We just have a lot of expenses. Michael, I said firmly, Your household brings in $8,000 a month. Your mortgage alone is $2,400. Add the car loans, credit cards, utilities, groceries, and Amanda's little shopping habit, and you're bleeding money every single month. His face paled further. How do you even know that? Because I've been covering the gap for 3 years. Do you think the money fairy was sneaking cash under your pillow? At that moment, the hotel phone rang. I answered while Michael sat frozen. "Mrs. Mitchell, this is Jessica from Sunset Gardens," came the polite voice. "The bride's mother is on another line. She'd like to reinstate the reception. She's willing to cover all costs if you'll approve it." I glanced at Michael, who was looking at me like I held his entire future in my hands. He wasn't wrong. "That's very generous of her, Jessica," I said coolly. "But I'm afraid that won't be possible." "Mom, please," Michael started, but I raised a hand to silence him. "You see, Jessica, there are family dynamics that make it inappropriate for me to accept money from other relatives for an event I canceled for good reason." "I understand. Should I confirm the cancellation then?" "Yes, please, and send the final invoice here to the Hampton Inn. I'll settle the balance myself." I hung up and turned back to Michael. So, Amanda's mom was willing to drop $14,000 to save the reception. "She's been planning this wedding for months," he muttered. "She invited half her country club." "How nice for her," I said. "Too bad her daughter couldn't be civil to the person footing the bill in the first place." Michael pulled out his phone. "I need to call Amanda. We need to figure out what to do about the house." "Go ahead," I said smoothly. "But Michael, when you talk to your wife about our new arrangement, make sure she understands something," I said firmly. Michael froze mid-dial. "I'm not the same woman who walked out of your house last night. That woman bent over backwards to keep peace in this family, no matter the cost. This woman is done being used. You're really going to make us sell our home?" he asked, his voice shaking. "I'm going to exercise my legal rights as a co-owner," I replied evenly. "What happens next is entirely up to you." He left without another word, no doubt heading back to deliver devastating news to Amanda on what was supposed to be her perfect day. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. "Dorothy." Amanda's voice was unrecognizable, strangled by sobs. "We need to talk." "No, sweetheart," I said calmly. "We really don't. Yesterday, you made it quite clear talking to me wasn't a priority." "I was upset, stressed about the wedding. I didn't mean it." "Of course you were upset. Must be exhausting, pretending to tolerate someone you clearly resent." I don't resent you, Dorothy. In the 3 years you've been living in the house I paid for," I said slowly, "you haven't thanked me once. Not once. You've never asked how I'm doing, how my health is, or shown an ounce of interest in my life. The only time you reach out is when you need a babysitter, a meal, or a check." "That's not true," she cried. "When was the last time you called just to talk?" Silence. "I'll save you the effort. You've never called me just to check in." "But you're Michael's mom. You're family." I laughed bitterly. "Yesterday, you said the best gift I could give this family was to vanish forever. Now you're claiming I'm family? Which is it, Amanda?" Her sobbing deepened. Raw, panicked, the kind that once would have made me rush to comfort her. Not anymore. "Dorothy, please," she choked out. "I'll do anything. I'll apologize. I'll pay you back." "With what money?" I asked coolly. "You don't have a job, remember? You're a full-time homemaker in a house you couldn't afford without me." I'll get a job." "That's an excellent idea. You absolutely should. But it doesn't change the situation with the house." "What if," she hiccuped, "what if we promise to pay you back everything? All the money you've given us over the years?" I almost laughed. "Amanda, honey, you owe me $124,000. At minimum wage, that would take you about 6 years to earn, and that's if you never spent a penny on anything else." The silence on the other end told me Reality was finally setting in. By 4 p.m., they'd called 16 more times. I hadn't answered a single one. Instead, I enjoyed a peaceful late lunch in the hotel restaurant while the local news played on the TV. The headline made me chuckle. Wedding chaos at Sunset Gardens. They didn't name names, but the footage of Amanda in full bridal attire crying on the country club steps was unmistakable. "Excuse me, aren't you Dorothy Mitchell?" I looked up to see a stylish woman about my age, with perfectly coiffed silver hair and sharp, kind eyes. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" I asked. "Barbara Haworth," she said, extending her hand. "Amanda's mother." She gestured toward the empty chair at my table. "May I?" Well, this should be interesting. Barbara sat with the poised elegance of someone used to navigating social disasters. "I wanted to thank you," she said. I blinked. "Thank me?" "For showing my daughter who she really is." That was unexpected. The waitress arrived and Barbara ordered coffee, her demeanor calm but serious. "I've been worried about Amanda for years," she continued. "The entitlement, the way she treats people she considers beneath her, the lack of appreciation. I hoped marriage would help her grow up. Instead, I just watched her humiliate herself by disrespecting the very woman who gave her everything. And I'm horrified." Barbara's coffee arrived. She stirred it slowly, thoughtful. "I offered to pay for the reception," she said. "Not because I condone her behavior, but because I felt responsible for the guests who traveled to be here. But you were right to refuse." "Was I?" I asked. "My daughter needed to face consequences," Barbara said firmly. "Real consequences, the kind that can't be fixed with daddy's money or mommy's connections." I studied Barbara carefully. There was something almost refreshing about her blunt honesty. "She called me hysterical over the house situation," Barbara continued. "Demanded I loan them money to buy out your share. I told her absolutely not. If she wanted to keep that house, maybe she should have shown a little respect to the co-owner." I couldn't help but smile. A woman after my own heart. Barbara leaned in. "Can I ask you something, Dorothy? What's your endgame here? Are you planning to force the sale?" That was the question I'd been asking myself. "Honestly," I admitted, "I haven't decided yet. Part of me wants to see if they can actually survive without me constantly bailing them out. Part of me wants to sell the house just to watch their little fairy tale life implode. And then there's a part of me that still sees Michael as my son, no matter how much he's hurt me." Barbara nodded knowingly. "I get it, but may I give you some advice? From someone who's been enabling her own daughter's bad behavior for 39 years? "Please," I said, intrigued. "Don't save them this time," Barbara said firmly. "No matter what you choose to do with that house, don't soften the blow. Amanda has never had to face the consequences of her behavior, not once. And now she's become someone I barely recognize as my daughter." She reached into her bag and handed me a business card. "I'm flying back to California tomorrow. If you ever want to talk to someone who understands what it's like to love an ungrateful child, call me." After Barbara left, I sat alone, staring at my phone as it buzzed relentlessly with desperate messages. The truth was, I hadn't decided what I wanted yet. Up until now, I'd been reacting, defending myself, setting boundaries. But this was bigger. I needed a plan. I thought about my options. The nuclear option: force a sale, make Michael and Amanda scramble for a cheap apartment in a less desirable neighborhood, finally experiencing what it's like to live within their means. The merciful option: offer to sell my share at cost, giving them a chance to stay in the house but still feel the financial sting. The spite option: keep my share forever, pay my portion of the taxes, and watch them sweat over every financial decision. I was deep in thought when my phone rang again. But this time, it wasn't them. "Mrs. Mitchell, this is Detective Rodriguez with the Virginia Beach Police Department. I'm calling about a report we received regarding financial elder abuse." My stomach dropped. "I'm sorry, what?" We had a call claiming that family members have been exploiting you financially and that you might be suffering from cognitive decline. We've been asked to conduct a welfare check. Those manipulative snakes. Detective Rodriguez, I said, my voice cold and clear. I can assure you I am perfectly capable of handling my own affairs. In fact, I'm thinking more clearly than I have in years. That's good to hear, ma'am, but we do need to follow up on these reports. Could we meet tomorrow morning? I glanced around the hotel restaurant, at families laughing over brunch, at couples sipping coffee. My hands trembled, not with fear, but with fury. Absolutely, detective, I said smoothly. In fact, I'd love to talk to you about financial abuse, just not the kind my family is claiming. We set a time to meet, and I hung up with a sharp smile tugging at my lips. If Michael and Amanda wanted to play dirty, they were about to find out I played better. Monday morning, I walked into the station, documents neatly organized in a leather folder. Detective Rodriguez was younger than I'd expected. Early 40s, calm and sharp-eyed, the kind of man who probably dealt with messy family disputes daily. Mrs. Mitchell, he said warmly, I want to start by saying the person who called seemed genuinely concerned about your well-being. I'm sure they did, I replied dryly. My daughter-in-law is very good at sounding concerned when it benefits her. I spread my bank statements across his desk. Detective, in the past 3 years, I've given my son and his wife $124,000. Would you like to see the records? His eyebrows lifted as he examined the neatly organized stack of papers. Copies of checks, wire transfers, and credit card payments. The picture they painted was clear, a pattern of dependency that could only be described as financial exploitation. This is substantial, he said carefully. It is, I replied. And yesterday, when I finally decided to put my foot down and set boundaries, they decided I must be mentally unstable. I played a voicemail Amanda had left at 3 a.m. Dorothy, this is insane behavior. Normal people don't destroy their family over hurt feelings. We're worried about you. Maybe you should see someone. Michael thinks you might be having a breakdown. Detective Rodriguez listened intently, taking notes. Any history of cognitive issues, Mrs. Mitchell? None, I said firmly. I manage my finances, run my household, drive myself everywhere. The only difference is that I stopped letting them drain me dry. I handed him the documents Margaret had sent me the night before. My lawyer can confirm I'm a co-owner of that house. Every step I've taken, from protecting my investment to canceling a reception I was paying for, has been fully within my rights. They told me to disappear. I simply honored their wishes. We talked for another 20 minutes. Detective Rodriguez was thorough but fair. By the end of the meeting, he seemed confident in my mental clarity and financial acumen. Mrs. Mitchell, he said, I'm closing this case as unfounded, but I'll leave you with some resources about elder financial abuse, just in case. Thank you, Detective, I said, but I think I have this handled. Driving away from the station, my phone rang. Michael's name lit up the screen. Mom, he said nervously. The police called. They said they're not pursuing the welfare check. That's because I'm not the one being financially abused, sweetheart. What's that supposed to mean? It means you and Amanda have been siphoning off my resources for years, while showing me nothing but disrespect. The detective seemed very interested in all my documentation. There was a long pause. Are you threatening us? I'm informing you that your manipulation tactics no longer work on me, I said evenly. Mom, please, can we just sit down and talk about this like adults? We can, but not at my house, and not until Amanda apologizes for the things she said. She's sorry, he said quickly. She's been crying for 2 days. Has she? I asked coldly, because her voicemail at 3 a.m. suggested she thought I was mentally ill. That's not remorse. That's control. Another pause. Where do you want to meet? He asked finally. Margaret Cheng's office. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Bring Amanda. And bring a realistic proposal for handling the house situation. Proposal? Yes, Michael. I own 35% of an asset worth $300,000. That's my retirement security. You either buy me out or we sell. Those are your choices. When I hung up, I felt it. A distinct shift in power. For the first time in years, they needed me far more than I needed them. Margaret's office was the perfect backdrop. Polished dark wood, leather-bound books, an air of quiet authority. Michael and Amanda arrived 15 minutes late, looking disheveled and defeated. Amanda's eyes were swollen from crying. Her usual perfect poise was gone. A flicker of sympathy touched me. But then I remembered her exact words. The best gift would be if you disappeared from our family. Dorothy, Amanda began, voice trembling, I owe you a huge apology. I was stressed and overwhelmed, and I said things I didn't mean. Thank you, I said coolly. That's a start. Her eyes widened, like she'd expected instant forgiveness. Margaret laid out the house documents on the conference table. Let's review the facts, she said. Dorothy contributed $87,000 toward the down payment. She is listed as a co-borrower on the mortgage. The deed shows her ownership stake at 35%. Michael studied the papers like he could somehow will them to change. We had no idea about the ownership stake, he muttered. You would have, Margaret replied sharply, if Amanda had signed the acknowledgement forms I sent. 3 times. I was busy with wedding planning, Amanda said weakly. For 3 years, Margaret's skeptical tone could have cut glass. I let the silence stretch, watching them squirm, before finally speaking. The question now, I said calmly, is how we move forward. I have a proposal. They both leaned forward, desperate for a lifeline. Option 1, you buy out my 35% share at current market value. That's $105,000. Amanda's face went pale. We don't have that kind of money. Option 2, I continued. We list the house and split the proceeds according to ownership. You'll have to move. Michael ran a hand down his face. We have to leave our home? Yes, I said coolly. You'd have to live somewhere you can actually afford. Amanda's voice cracked. What about an option 3? There is no option 3, I said simply. Those are your choices. Margaret pulled out a calculator, her professionalism unshaken. If you sold today, after realtor fees and closing costs, you'd net about $270,000. Dorothy's share would be roughly $95,000. That leaves you $175,000 for new housing. That's not enough for anything decent, Amanda protested. It's enough for a comfortable apartment or a smaller home in a different neighborhood, I replied evenly. You know, a place people with your actual income can sustain. Michael leaned forward. Mom, can't we work out a payment plan? We could pay you monthly until we buy out your share. I'd been waiting for that. At what interest rate? With what collateral? You've already shown you don't honor financial agreements. That's not fair, Michael said defensively. Isn't it? I shot back. You owe me $37,000 in loans you never repaid. Why would I trust you with another $100,000? Amanda burst into tears again. This is going to destroy our lives. No, Amanda, I said, voice steady. This is going to make you live within your means for the first time in your life. But what about our credit, our reputation? I almost laughed. Your credit? It's already a disaster. You've been late on bills for months. I know because I've been covering them. Margaret cleared her throat, reclaiming the conversation. Dorothy is being remarkably generous here. She has every legal right to force a sale immediately. How long do we have to decide? Michael asked quietly. 30 days, I said. That gives you time to explore your financing options. As we gathered our things, Amanda grabbed my arm. Dorothy, please. I know I hurt you, but we're family. Doesn't that count for something? I looked at her hand on my sleeve, then at her tear-streaked face. For a brief moment, I saw the scared young woman buried under all that entitlement. Amanda, I said softly, family should count for something. That's exactly why we're here. 2 weeks into their 30-day deadline, I opened my hotel room door to find Barbara Haworth standing there, a bottle of wine in one hand and a determined look in her eyes. "I hope you don't mind me dropping by," she said warmly. "Margaret gave me your hotel info." I invited her in, curious. "I came to check on the kids," Barbara said, settling into the armchair. "And to talk to you." "How are they holding up?" I asked. "Terribly," she admitted. "Amanda's having daily panic attacks. Michael's working overtime, trying to secure a loan. They're fighting constantly." I poured us both a glass of wine, surprised at how little satisfaction their misery brought me. "Barbara, are you here to ask me to reconsider?" She shook her head. "Actually, no. I'm here to tell you about Amanda's father." That wasn't what I expected. "Richard spoiled her rotten," Barbara said with a heavy sigh. "Every tantrum rewarded, every consequence erased. Every failure was always someone else's fault." She sipped her wine, thoughtful. "When Amanda was 16, she totaled her car while driving drunk. Instead of letting her face the consequences, Richard hired the best lawyer money could buy and got the charges dropped." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked cautiously. Barbara's eyes glistened. "Because I've watched my daughter become someone I don't recognize, and I finally understand that her problems aren't going to be solved by more money or more rescuing." Barbara reached into her purse and pulled out a check. "Amanda asked me to give you this. It's for $25,000, a good faith payment toward buying out your share." I glanced at the check but didn't take it. "And what did you tell her?" "I told her I won't enable her anymore," Barbara said firmly. "That money came from Richard's life insurance, money I'd been saving for her inheritance. But giving it to her now would just keep repeating the same cycle." She tore the check cleanly in half. "Barbara, that's a lot of money. Money Amanda hasn't earned and doesn't deserve," she said coldly. "Dorothy, I want you to know that whatever you decide about the house, I'll support you, even if it means they lose their home." She paused. "Especially then. Maybe starting over will finally teach Amanda what gratitude really means." After Barbara left, I sat in silence, reflecting on the last 3 years. I'd been just as guilty of enabling Amanda as her parents. Every time I wrote a check to cover their shortfall, I was reinforcing the belief that there would always be a safety net, that they'd never have to face the consequences of their own choices. The real question was, what kind of lesson did I want them to learn now? My phone buzzed with a text from Michael. "Mom, we've been approved for a home equity loan for $60,000 toward buying you out. Can we meet to discuss partial payment arrangements for the rest?" I stared at the message for a long moment. They were trying, really trying, which was more than they'd done in years. But taking out a home equity loan wasn't growth. It was just more debt. Another escape hatch from responsibility. I typed back, "We can discuss it, but I want a complete household budget and a realistic plan to pay off all your debts, not just mine." His response came instantly. "Anything you want, Mom. We just want to make this right." For the first time since this ordeal began, that felt like progress. The budget meeting was like watching a train wreck in slow motion. Michael and Amanda spread their financial paperwork across Margaret's polished conference table, the numbers telling a damning story. "Okay," I said, scanning the figures. "You spend $400 a month on restaurants." Amanda's tone turned defensive. "We both work long hours. Sometimes we're too tired to cook." "You don't work, Amanda," I said bluntly. "Michael works long hours." Her face flushed, but I kept going. $300 a month on clothes for social events." "What social events?" "You don't have a job." Amanda flinched but stayed quiet. $200 for premium cable and streaming. $150 for a gym membership you barely use. $800 a month in credit card minimums, all for vacations and shopping. Michael punched numbers into his phone, his face pale. "Mom, I know it looks bad. It is bad. I said sharply. You're living like you make $12,000 a month when you bring in $8,000. Amanda leaned forward eagerly. But with the home equity loan, we can pay off the credit cards. It'll lower our monthly expenses. I looked at Margaret, who raised an eyebrow but stayed silent. Amanda, I said calmly, you'd be borrowing against your house to pay off credit card debt. What happens when you max them out again? Amanda shook her head quickly. We won't. We've learned our lesson. Have you? I asked coldly. Because this budget says otherwise. You're still eating out constantly, still holding on to memberships you don't use, and still treating shopping like therapy. Michael leaned in. What would you want to see, Mom? What would convince you that we're serious? Finally, the right question. I want to see a budget based on reality, I said. I want to see you canceling unnecessary expenses, cooking at home, and, I turned to Amanda, I want you to get a job. A job? Amanda's voice trembled like I just suggested she climb Everest. Yes, a job, I said firmly. You're 39 with a college degree. There's no reason you can't contribute to your own household income. But Michael makes good money. Not good enough, I said sharply. Apparently not, since I've been subsidizing your lifestyle for 3 years. Margaret cleared her throat, breaking the tension. Dorothy, what exactly are you proposing? I'd been turning it over in my head for days, weighing every possible outcome. Here's my offer, I said finally. You can buy out my share for $75,000 instead of the full $105,000. But there are conditions. Both of them leaned forward, hope flickering in their eyes. First, Amanda gets a job within 60 days and keeps it for at least 2 years. Second, you sell one of your cars and put that money toward your debt. Third, you live on a strict, realistic budget. No eating out, no impulse shopping, and no new debt for the next 2 years. Michael frowned. And how would you monitor all this? Monthly check-ins with Margaret, I said matter-of-factly. You'll submit bank statements, credit reports, proof of income. If you break any of these terms, the full amount comes due immediately. Amanda's face went pale. That's like being in financial prison. No, Amanda, I said calmly. That's called accountability. They stepped out into the hall to whisper and argue while Margaret and I exchanged glances. This is either incredibly generous, she murmured, or downright ruthless. Maybe it's both, I said, sipping my coffee. When they came back in, Michael spoke for both of them. We accept your terms. All of them? I asked. All of them, Amanda confirmed, her voice tight, like she'd swallowed poison. Margaret began drafting the agreement with precise strokes of her pen. We'll get this notarized and filed with the county. It will be binding. As I watched them sign away their financial freedom for the next 2 years, I felt complicated. Part of me was triumphant, yes. Another part was deeply sad it had come to this. But mostly, I felt relieved. Relieved that I was finally teaching them the lesson they'd needed for years. Actions have consequences, and family isn't a license to treat people like doormats. 6 months later, I sat in my cozy 2-bedroom apartment in a senior living community, complete with a pool, walking trails, and a thriving garden club I joined, when my phone buzzed. Dorothy, I got the promotion. Amanda's voice was bubbling with pride. Amanda had started as a receptionist at a dental office. And apparently, she'd been so efficient that they'd promoted her to office manager. That's wonderful, honey. How do you feel? I asked warmly. Exhausted, she laughed. And for the first time in years, it was genuine laughter. But proud. I never thought I was good at this kind of work, but I guess I am. You always were, I said softly. You just never had to use those skills before. There was a pause. Dorothy, I owe you an apology. The real one, not the panicked mess I gave you in Margaret's office. I'm listening. I was awful to you for years. I treated you like a walking ATM, and I got angry when you dared to have feelings about it. I told myself you were dramatic, but really, I was entitled and cruel. I set my coffee cup down, surprised by how deeply her words touched me. What changed your mind? Working for my own money, realizing how hard it is to save even $100 when you have bills to pay, understanding just how much you sacrificed to help us. And Michael, well, he's getting there. He still thinks you were harsh, but he admits we needed to change. Through my window, I saw neighbors tending the community garden, laughter echoing softly. I'd signed up to help plant spring vegetables next week. How are things between you and Michael? I asked. Better, Amanda said honestly. We actually talk now. We cook at home. We go for walks instead of shopping sprees. It's nice. I'm glad to hear that. Dorothy, would you like to come to dinner sometime? Nothing fancy. Just spaghetti and conversation that isn't about money. I thought about it. The old version of me would have jumped at the invitation, desperate to mend the relationship. The new me had learned to protect my boundaries. I'd like that, I said finally. But let's start with lunch, in a public place, baby steps. Of course, whatever makes you comfortable. After we hung up, I sat for a long while, absorbing how different that call had felt compared to all the others. Amanda had sounded like an adult, taking responsibility for her actions, not a child making excuses. Maybe, just maybe, the lesson had finally sunk in. The text popped up on my phone from Barbara Howarth. Heard about Amanda's promotion. Thank you for not giving up on her. I typed back, thank you for not bailing her out. Because sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is stop rescuing them. Sometimes love means saying no, and sometimes the greatest gift you can give is the space for someone to discover who they really are when there's no one left to cushion their fall. For 3 years, I had been their safety net, catching them every time they stumbled. But in doing so, I'd unknowingly robbed them of the opportunity to grow. The moment I pulled that net away, they were forced to find their own wings, not because they wanted to, but because they had no choice. And that, I realized, was the most valuable lesson I could ever give them. Outside my window, the evening sun cast golden light over the walking trail where I'd signed up for a seniors hiking group. Tomorrow, I had lunch plans with Frank, a kind man I'd met at book club who'd made me laugh so hard I'd almost spilled my tea. At 68, I was finally experiencing what it meant to be valued for who I was, not for the money I could provide. And that feeling was worth more than every dollar I'd ever given away. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.